Tesla, we do not believe, is just an auto company. It's a technology company, battery company. It's an Internet of Things company. We don't think you can put it in the same categories as Ford.
Hey, I'm Stephen and this is Solving the Money Problem. If you're new, welcome. If you're not, welcome back. So, ARK Invest, one of my all-time favorites. In fact, my absolute favorite. Maybe I'm biased because they think the same way that I do. In fact, in January 2017, after months and months of research, looking at what stocks I'd like to add to my newly developed stock portfolio, I began buying stocks in 2016, beginning with Tesla and Solar City, kept accumulating, but I wanted to sort of spread my risk a little bit, get a finger in a few different pies, genomics, robotics, artificial intelligence, blah, 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 blah. Well, next minute I realized that ARK Invest had constructed some funds that basically looked like scaled down versions of the kind of portfolio I'd built for myself. I thought, I'll save myself some time and just buy some of their funds instead. So I did, and I subsequently cleaned up. ARK performed phenomenally well. Not surprised. Again, the thinking, it was obvious that they were seeing things in a different light to most out there and identifying the same kind of opportunities that I thought had huge potential in the future. We were both right. So in this video, we're going to wind the clock back a few years to approximately the midpoint in a 5-year span where Tesla stock did approximately fuck all. For those of you who are unfamiliar with that expression, it's Australian for not much. History can be our greatest teacher, and that is the point of this video. While most took a cursory look at Tesla's stock a few years ago, listened to some of the talking heads on television who had done approximately, wait, what's that word again? Oh, that's right, all research into the company, and was spouting drivel, oh no, they're just like other automakers. What about Ford? What about GM? They're doing... And those who did their research, dug deep enough, saw the opportunity. Well, spoiler alert, today, I personally believe that the vast majority of the mainstream finance media, the vast majority of Wall Street analysts, and by far the vast majority of retail investors still have absolutely no idea what Tesla is and are missing the obvious fundamental opportunities that lie ahead of them. So, keep that in mind as you watch this video. Reference what you're hearing today being said in the mainstream finance media and from Wall Street analysts, using the term loosely there, because honestly, I don't think these guys are analyzing Tesla stock. I think they're projecting onto Tesla stock and going from there. Bad way to reason. That's why they've been so wrong for so long. Let's get into the video. But first, hey guys, if you're in the US and you'd like to help out the channel and get a free stock, check out the link in the description to WeBull. If you open a new account and fund it with $100, you'll get a free stock valued up to $1,600. And if you're in Australia, the UK, or New Zealand, you can get a free stock with stake, also using the link in the description. Let's get back to it.
We have a longer term focus, and we just published a white paper called Mobility as a Service, Self-Driving Cars Could Change Everything. Tasha Keeney's our analyst. She authored it, and it's on our website. We believe that mobility as a service is a huge opportunity. The global mobility market right now is a $10 trillion market, and we think between electric vehicles and autonomous taxi networks that $10 trillion market is going to be disrupted severely. We think Tesla has its eye on the autonomous taxi market, and of course we know it's leading the charge in electric vehicles, so we're very excited about Tesla.
Why wouldn't you buy Ford? It's only 14% more expensive, and you get about 100 times the production and also a focus on self-driving.
Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with asking the question, but boy, is this a really strong tell of how disconnected the understanding was. The very notion that Ford might be on level footing with Tesla in terms of its autonomous driving efforts is just laughable. But that's where the thinking was in 2017, and honestly, that's where a lot of the thinking is today.
And more autonomous vehicles are certainly a development we've seen really every year for the last 20.
Yeah.
But it seems to me, from a valuation standpoint, that there are bargains. If Tesla's a certain valuation based on what they might someday do, you can get Ford for what it's already doing.
Well, I want to, if I could just answer quickly. Tesla, we do not believe, is just an auto company. It's a technology company, battery company. It's an Internet of Things company. We don't think you can put it in the same categories as Ford. Ford has to overcome the internal combustion engine shifting over to electric vehicles. That's one big transition. And then on top of that, they're going to have to try and face this autonomous taxi network, which we think could create local monopolies companies or even country monopolies. I think Tesla or Google would have the lead here, perhaps Toyota in Japan. We don't know who in Europe, maybe Volkswagen. They certainly have to change the subject. So we're very focused on who's leading the charge into this new age of electric vehicles and autonomous taxi networks.
3.5 years ago, with Tesla stock at $50 per share, split adjusted, Cathie Wood is explaining that they're focused on Tesla because they're focused on who is the leader in electric vehicles, who is the leader in autonomous vehicles. Fancy that. In fairness, it does take time to do your research, so let's fast forward 1 year exactly from this previous interview and see if the consensus opinion regarding Tesla had changed at all.
At some stratospheric number.
Yeah.
Which happens first? All GM goes to a 300 PE or Tesla goes back to 16? Because one of those two has to happen.
No.
Explain that part.
GM is a call option on the future. The future is electric. GM's not electric yet, right? It's the internal combustion engine all the way. The future is transportation as a service, software as a service. You need software engineers for that. GM has great engineers, but they're hardware engineers. They had to go buy Cruise Automation to get those software engineers in Silicon Valley.
1 year later, it's the exact same narrative, the same story. What about Ford? What about GM? Guys, it's EVs and autonomy. You can't just suddenly pivot and be amazing at both of those. We're already focused on the leader, that's Tesla. Ford and GM aren't anywhere close to Tesla, so don't put them in the same basket, they're not the same thing.
Then you've got two big model changes. Electric, software as a service, gross margins going from 20 to 25, which is the hardware model, to 85, 90%, which is the software as a service model. Completely different DNA. This is where Tesla is going. It updates, it improves performance, it corrects mistakes, flaws. GM cannot do that and is really going to have to go maybe through Cruise Automation and rebuild a company, right? And even if they were allowed to do it by law, how do most dealerships get their profits? It's service. Is GM going to alienate its dealers? I don't think so.
There is a reason I continually harp on and say repeatedly that Ford and GM are both going bankrupt this decade. The writing is on the wall. Obvious to some, not so much to others. And just for the record, Kevin O'Leary, who asked the questions of Cathie in this interview, has since changed. He's now a massive Tesla bull. So Kevin O'Leary has seen the light, and this is the point of the video. Over time, more and more people will see the light, they'll see the obvious, they'll see the inevitable, and as that happens, in my opinion, as sentiment improves toward Tesla stock, as the stragglers in thinking start to realize, oh, okay, they really are winning EVs, they really are winning autonomous software, oh boy, there's a big opportunity here. As that happens, I think even more people are going to get into the stock, understanding that Tesla has won the decade. Not investment advice, just me thinking out loud. And if anyone's wondering, Tesla stock at the time of that interview, split adjusted, was $67 per share. And yes, I was buying at that point in time too. I've been buying consistently since February 2016 and haven't stopped, except when I ran out of money. And now let's fast forward another 6 months to August 2018, at which point Tesla stock, split adjusted, had fallen to $60 per share.
One of the biggest differences is time horizon. Those who are focused on the ramp of the Model 3 to 5,000 units per week, and on cash burn and on capital spending, which we think is a this year issue, are not looking at the next 5 to 10 years.
Music to my massive ears. Yes, 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 yes. Those who focus on the short term, next quarter, next year, etc., in my opinion, they're not investors. They're fools. They think they're investors. They're not. They're in the casino. They're gambling. Short time horizons are fucking useless. They introduce so much unnecessary risk and they're not relevant. A long-term investor understands that over the short term, the market's volatile. What's that saying? In the short term, the market is a voting machine. Over the long term, the market is a weighing machine. So many people were foolishly focused on very short-term metrics in Tesla and blind to the long-term vision, the execution, the trend, the trajectory, everything. So the question I ask you is, how far into the future are you looking in terms of assessing these investments? How far can you see? What does that future look like? What are the risks? Do they have massive advantages? Is there going to be any competition? These are the kind of questions you want to ask. What are the costs of their primary technologies going to do over the long term? What's going to be a critical piece of their business tomorrow that isn't a critical piece of the business today? What challenges will they face? How will they overcome these? These are the kind of questions you should be asking. Having a long-term vision allows people to identify opportunities far earlier than those who are short-sighted. And this is why I've been buying Tesla like mad. I mean, I saw all this. I'm not an idiot. I wasn't all in on Tesla stock because that's going to be a great idea. I did my research and acted accordingly. And Cathie's really trying to emphasize this point. Being short-sighted will cause you to miss out on enormous opportunities like Tesla because you're not looking far enough into the future to make any reasonable decisions about whether or not to own the stock.
If we are correct, Tesla will be one of the leaders in autonomous taxi networks and in autonomous truck platoons. So autonomous taxi networks, if we're right, are going to cut the cost of transportation in half. If you look at what it has cost us to drive our personal cars, which is simply prepaid transportation, when you include all of the costs associated with it and adjust for inflation, the price hasn't changed since the cars came off the assembly line, the first cars came off the assembly line. So roughly 70 cents US per mile. Autonomous is going to cut that in half to 35 cents. But to give you a sense of how dramatic that change is, the average taxi in the US costs $3.50 per mile. The average autonomous taxi is going to cost 35 cents per mile. So to take a cab from, if I can use my own experience, from Manhattan in New York City to JFK, it took me, it cost me $75 just a few weeks ago. When autonomous taxi networks roll out, and we think they're beginning to roll out now, Google has already started, we believe that cost will go down to the $7 to $10 range.
Question. If you're Lyft or Uber or anybody else operating a ride-hailing network and a competitor enters the market who has fully autonomous electric vehicles that they can charge approximately, let's say 1/5 or 1/10 of the price for an equivalent or superior service, how do you compete? Answer, you don't.
So you can see how provocative we think this is going to be. Autonomous vehicles are going to be electric. They're going to be cheaper than or the average EV is going to be cheaper than a Toyota Camry by the year 2022. And that price will continue to fall as the Toyota Camry price pretty much stays stable. So the incentive to move to electric is very high. And the incentive to move to autonomous taxi networks and forget about buying a car is also very high as costs to the consumer drop so dramatically.
Fast forward 2 years or so to the present moment, and the vast majority of stock analysts covering Tesla, even retail investors, are still not even discussing the autonomous opportunity. They finally started to cotton on to the fact that Tesla will probably, in the future, provide battery cells to other companies, including automakers and maybe others wanting to produce stationary storage. But still, everyone's asleep. Oh no, robotaxis, that's going to take at least 20 years, man. That's not going to happen today. You're crazy. As if that's never going to happen. Well, I'll see you guys in 2 years. I'm Stephen Mark Ryan. This is Solving the Money Problem, and I love you all. And don't forget your free stocks with WeBull and Stake using the links below. Deposit $100 in your WeBull account, you'll get a free stock valued up to $1,600, and Stake, spin the roulette wheel, you'll either get Nike, GoPro, or Dropbox. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, if you have any ideas for future videos, let me know. I read all your comments. P.S. If you're still watching, you're awesome. If you'd like early access, exclusive videos, regular Q&As, our private Discord server and more, consider supporting the channel at patreon.com/solvingthemoneyproblem so I can keep creating content for you guys. There's a link in the description. You can now also become a member of the channel for some exclusive perks. To learn more, click the join button next to subscribe. And don't forget to check out our merch store. Either way, the best form of support is you being here and watching, so thanks again.